I think it's fair to say Marvel spent a few years without a lot of hits, but even during the dark times, one show stood proud above the rest. X-Men 97. The continuation of the classic 90s show, 97 was fun yet dramatic, creative yet comics accurate. Basically, everything X-Men fans want out of an adaptation. I was rooting for this show, I still am. I want to see it become the definitive X-Men animated series. But season 1 had one big problem. It was stuffed to the brim. There were too many ideas competing for too little screen time, and some of the show's best story beats didn't get enough room to land. So when season 2 came along, I had one big question. Did they fix it? Let's talk about it, but first, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Also, spoilers for season 1, but I'll be giving a warning before I discuss season 2 spoilers. First, the premise. After the events of last season, our merry band of mutants are scattered across time. One team in the distant future, one in the remote past, Bishop and Forge in the present trying to get the gang back together. The only thing tying all these three eras together is the X-Men's most powerful, brutal enemy yet, Apocalypse. The first 4 episodes are easily the strongest, as we see our heroes in strange new environments and catch up on how they've been dealing with the aftermath of season 1. And right out of the gate, the show still looks fantastic. The locations, especially ancient Egypt and the literal post-apocalypse future, look appropriately alien and comic booky in the best way possible. Why does Apocalypse have a train with his face on it? Because it looks cool. The character designs are over the top and memorable, managing to balance color and levity with that unmistakable 90s edge. Oh, and massive shout out for making people like Psylocke and Emma Frost total smoke shows like they should be. I didn't think they would have the guts to put Betsy in the classic Jim Lee leotard, but they did, and it's glorious. The girls in general are pretty hot, and thankfully all the heroes look like, well, heroes. They're in shape, they're attractive, they look like people you want to see kicking ass. The show even gets some mileage out of the Grant Morrison era designs, which is a nice touch. Moving on, the animation itself is just gorgeous. Incredible fight scenes, fluid combat choreography, and they absolutely nail the visual execution of these characters' powers. These feel like larger-than-life forces colliding. Really, I only have one minor complaint with the visuals, and that's with the use of CGI. It doesn't look bad per se, but it does stand out against the traditional 2D style. Other than that, serious kudos to the animation team. The voice cast also delivers strong performances all around. Some of the original VAs are starting to sound a bit older, but they make up for it with sheer experience and emotion. So yeah, all the stuff that made X-Men 97 great in the first place is still here. Everything else has a big ass sign hanging off of it that says, "It's complicated." I mentioned that season 1 of this show was great, but not perfect. Well, the biggest problem I had was just how overcrowded it felt. Individual story beats were solid, but the pacing choked them out. Storm's arc in Life-Death was the biggest offender for me. It felt like the writers wanted to do a 20-episode season, were later told, no, you only got 10, and decided to just keep every single plotline anyway. Does season 2 fix that? No. As a matter of fact, I think it might be even worse at it. Now, this is only a minor spoiler, but the whole Back to the Future time travel premise is really only here for the first few episodes. So if you were hoping for a major focus on the X-Men being scattered across time, yeah, sorry. Because once you get past that opening, the season starts piling on new stuff with basically every episode. You got Apocalypse running around, you got the X-Men rebuilding the school, you got not one, but 2 new teams in X-Force and X-Factor. And that's not even close to all the storylines, by the way. And just to remind you, this season is shorter than the one before. See the problem? To be clear, the individual ideas are good. For example, Wolverine dealing with the loss of his adamantium is an interesting concept. He hated getting infused with the stuff, but now that it's gone, he's becoming weaker. Does he accept his weakness, or does he relive the most painful experience of his life? That's a story. The problem is that the show keeps introducing these concepts, giving them just enough time to get interesting, and then sprinting off to the next shiny plot point. One of my favorite scenes this season is just the team playing poker and cracking wise. No world-ending stakes, no giant revelations, no breakneck speed, just cool characters interacting. And that scene works because it lets the cast and the audience actually process the moment. The season desperately needed more of that narrative air. Because here's the thing, X-Men is a franchise driven by its characters. Yes, I want to see colorful monsters, giant fights, and crazy mutant powers, but I also want to see these guys being the close-knit family of weirdos and outsiders we all know and love. And this leads into another issue, the overall structure. Season 1 had a pretty clean narrative arc. Magneto takes over the X-Men, we get a few standalone episodes, and then Bastion is introduced halfway through, and we spend the back half of the season focused on his plot. It had multiple storylines, too many if I'm being honest, but once the main villain got introduced, they focused on him. This time around, we kick things off fighting Apocalypse in the past and future. He's set up as this massive, season-defining threat, and then he just kind of vanishes. The X-Men go off on various side quests while Apocalypse becomes a background figure for a huge chunk of the season, only to suddenly re-emerge as the final boss in the last act. The show spends its opening episodes building a runway that it doesn't actually fly off of. For my money, the X-Men came home way too early. They should have stayed scattered through time longer. Let us actually explore these environments. Let the characters develop relationships under these weird circumstances. Milk the time travel premise for all it's worth. Then you bring everybody back in like the penultimate episode or something. Now you got the whole team reunited, the threat is crystal clear, and the finale can just be one giant apocalypse showdown. That's a cohesive season. As for the extra stuff, maybe keep an X-Force storyline in the present with more Psylocke butt shots obviously, but I would cut X-Factor completely. Most of that team barely even speaks. If you only have 9 30-minute episodes to work with, every single character you introduce needs to earn the screen time they're stealing from somebody else, especially when guys like Beast and even Scott and Jean to some extent feel sidelined. That's the core issue here. I'll never knock passion, especially for X-Men lore, and it's obvious the writers love these comics, but passion without restraint leads to excess. The writers seriously need to trim the fat. Too many characters, too many plot lines, not enough runtime. And the frustrating thing is that fixing this doesn't mean making the show less ambitious, it just means prioritizing. Pick the stories that matter most and give those beats room to actually hit home. It's not a bad show. The animation is gorgeous, the voice acting is great, there are fantastic character moments, killer action scenes, and plenty of ideas that I genuinely adore. But this season just fails to assemble all of that into a unified whole. And that's why X-Men 97 is so frustrating. It's not mediocre because the writers don't have any ideas, it's mediocre because they have too many ideas and refuse to sacrifice any of them for the sake of the overall narrative. Will I be watching Season 3? Yes, of course, it's the X-Men, but I'm going in with pretty low expectations, and it wouldn't surprise me if viewership drops off considerably. If anybody on the production team is watching this, please simplify things. You are one structural edit away from greatness. We're moving into full spoilers now, so click away if you haven't finished it, but if you enjoyed the video so far, please like, share, and subscribe. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1... Probably the biggest twist this season is Magneto's death. It feels like the writers trying to recapture the shock value of the Genosha attack from Season 1. Eric's arc of trying to quote-unquote fix a young Apocalypse as a form of personal redemption is a solid concept. Yes, he was a dick for stranding the team in the past, but still, I thought, okay, cool, we're finally acknowledging that Magneto has done some pretty horrific stuff. Except, not really, no. If you thought Season 1 laid the Magneto worship on thick, Season 2 doubles down. There's literally an episode where a cult worshipping Eric shows up, preaching full human-mutant segregation, and Xavier sees this and basically goes, "We have to stop them from ruining Magnus's dream." And I'm sitting here thinking, what dream? This guy preached segregationism for like 90% of his life. He only entertained Xavier's vision of peaceful coexistence right at the very end. And look, I'm not saying Magneto can't be a sympathetic character. He absolutely can. That's what makes him iconic. He's done terrible things, but he's also suffered terribly. He's capable of both extraordinary heroism and horrifying cruelty. That's the character. Instead, the show increasingly sanitizes and makes excuses for his bad behavior. Remember when he dropped an EMP across the entire planet, potentially killing thousands of innocent people? Well, the show sure doesn't remember because nobody seems bothered to bring it up. It's not that Xavier mourning his old friend is wrong, it's that the script seems terrified of holding Eric accountable for the uglier parts of his legacy, which completely undercuts a season that is allegedly giving him a redemption arc. The other big reveal is the return of Gambit. Apocalypse turns him into the Horseman of Death and transfers his consciousness into him, which gets super convoluted, actually. We see future Apocalypse claiming he needs a new vessel. We see 90s Apocalypse revive Gambit, and eventually the X-Men discover that the Cajun has been possessed. But how? Did future Apocalypse come back and merge with his 90s self? Or did he possess Gambit and murder his old self? All we see is a desiccated corpse. I don't really get the mechanics of it. So something that should be a massive revelation ends up being way more confusing than it needed to be. I did like Dark Gambit though, total vampire vibes all around. It's also funny how the show fully embraces the trope of the hero getting an insane power boost the second he turns evil. Gambit damn near solos the entire team. Ditto for Nightcrawler when he gets possessed. Apparently, wearing darker colors just instantly boosts all your stats. No wonder people say Batman can beat Superman. But yeah, people are clowning pretty hard on the Gambit Apocalypse design. And yeah, he looks straight up like Dr. Doppler from Mega Man X3. It's kinda hilarious. And then Rogue sacrifices herself to the Celestial who gave Apocalypse his powers, becoming a Super Saiyan to stop Gambit Apocalypse, only for Nightcrawler to pull an Uno reverse card and sacrifice himself so Rogue wouldn't die. So I guess the whole thing about it being Cable's destiny to destroy Apocalypse was just completely wrong. Way to go, Mother Ascani. Now look, I'm not calling the emotion nonsensical. Rogue would absolutely give her life to save the man she loves, and Kurt would absolutely give his life to save his sister and his brother-in-law. It's just that the whole high-stakes sacrifice play gets crammed into the literal final episode. If they had devoted some proper build-up to Kurt, Rogue, and how the Celestial ship actually functions, that moment would have been an absolute emotional gut punch. However, very based of them to include a shot of a white heterosexual couple reading the Bible in the final episode. I appreciate that. But anyway, see what I mean? There's cool stuff here, a lot of it. That's why I can't just write this season off as trash. The problem is that the show refuses to give its best ideas proper narrative real estate because I guess we just had to squeeze in an episode where Polaris learns how awesome her dad is and fights a danger room robot. And that's X-Men 97 in a nutshell. There's a genuinely great show buried under all this noise. The animation is incredible, the characters are fantastic, and the writers clearly adore the source material. But they need to learn a crucial lesson. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for a story is to take a step back and let a single idea take center stage. The big teaser for Season 3 is Mystique and the Brotherhood. If I had to guess, they're going to try to kill Graydon Creed and the X-Men will have to step in and stop it. I'm not exactly hyped up for that story, but if they can actually focus on that plotline, it could be cool. Hang in there guys, I'm sure they're going to do Onslaught any minute now. X-Men 97 is super frustrating because it's just okay when it could be astonishing. And those are my thoughts. What did you think? Did you watch Season 2? Did you like it better than the first? Let me know in the comments. And once again, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.